Sometimes when you have an Etsy store and you're trying to diversify your revenue base, you're trying to boost your sales and whatnot, it might be a good idea to export Etsy to Shopify. In other words, you're exporting your Etsy store items to Shopify. So in today's conversation, this is what I will talk to you about. I'll give you a comprehensive guide. Let me first give you the overview that you need to pay attention to here. So why should you import Etsy to Shopify? So in other words, we're talking about importing Etsy to Shopify from a Shopify point of view, or exporting Etsy to Shopify from an Etsy point of view. So the thing is that if you are still in doubt about whether it's a good idea to change the platform from Etsy to Shopify, here are some advantages and disadvantages of doing this, okay? Pros and cons. Mind though, that you don't need to change from Etsy to Shopify at once. You can operate both at once if you have the resources, if you have the time, okay? But it's a bit complicated. So what happens here is that most people end up sticking with one platform or another. And we have business clients who actually have both strategies. So you can either have a unidirectional goal, in other words, you are only on one platform, or you have a multi-directional goal, in other words, you are on two or multiple platforms. So it's really important to understand that when you think about importing from Etsy to Shopify, you got to always think about your budget. You got to think about your resources. You have to think about the types of products that you're selling. And most importantly, you have to think about your target audience, because they're the ones who are infinite, who are going to make a decision of whether or not to follow you. Okay. So this is important. Now let's talk about migration from Etsy to Shopify. So when you switch from Etsy to Shopify, you have to create an online store with an infinite possibility of growth, because on Shopify you have an infinite possibility of growth. You get access to a flurry of apps to help your business. Okay, you can handle taxes and payments in one platform. So those are the pros. But let's talk about the cons. So your online store starts with zero traffic. Remember, on Etsy, you had the advantage of a mega marketplace already, but with Shopify, you will start with zero traffic, and you don't have access to the Etsy marketplace anymore, and you need to handle marketing on your own. So this is really important to understand that. Now, in short, Etsy, in our view, is a great place because it is a marketplace, and you don't have to spend a dime on marketing if your product is popular. Shopify, on the other hand, is a platform that lets you create an e-store for a very reasonable fee. That fee, though, is offset by the fact that you need to invest in marketing, both PPC and SEO. PPC, price per click, and SEO, search engine optimization. Okay, that can cost you quite a lot at first, but the sales have a much bigger potential for growth than in an Etsy business. Now let's talk about why connect Etsy to Shopify. That's like the rationale that you have to really, you need to clarify today. By the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. We're having a quick convo about how to export Etsy to Shopify. And I want to talk to you about why. See, the whole thing is that what we have seen in our research is that, many entrepreneurs transitioning from Etsy to Shopify know that this process requires starting almost from scratch. So what we've seen is a lot of people prefer not to jump ship, but to connect Etsy to Shopify instead. Okay, so, and again, as I said before, running stores on both platforms can be tricky, but it is totally possible. So don't listen to this conversation and think you have to. It's not like an either or. It can be both. Okay. Now the thing is that if you do it that way, if you do it like on both platforms simultaneously, you can save the cash flow from Etsy as a buffer for the transition period. It can also help you try to dip your toes in the Shopify thing without putting all your eggs into one basket, and bail if you don't think running an e-store is the right way for you. Like you're trying to really advance strategically, cautiously. Okay, this is really important. So it's one thing I want to say also is that when we talk about connecting Etsy to Shopify, The advantage of doing it is that you have the way, like you can test a lot of options when it comes to SEO, when it comes to PPC. By the way, PPC and SEM mean roughly the same thing. SEM is a search engine marketing. Now, let's talk about how to import Etsy to Shopify. So the thing is that if you aim to completely transfer your Etsy store to Shopify, you can actually do it very seamlessly. Okay, it's really easy to import all your Etsy store's data to Shopify. You don't need coding skills or deep knowledge of Excel to do this. Okay, so this is something that you can do very easily. It's important to understand though that you need to have some basic settings about both platforms all finalized first. Like you need to have some settings in Shopify. You need to also know your settings in Etsy. So let's just get into it. So if you want to import your Etsy products to Shopify, here are the steps I want you to follow. By the way, I want to quickly remind you of today's conversation, the topic. We are talking about how to export Etsy to Shopify. So the first and most important step to import your Etsy shop is to actually import the listings from one platform to another. Okay, so you want to start by logging into your Etsy account and go into the store manager. So in the store manager dashboard, you want to go to settings options, and you need to click the download data tab. So what will happen here is that you will find a button with the prompt to download data. So you want to click on it and save a CSV document to your hard drive. This document will contain all the data about your open listings, including descriptions, tags, pricing, and more, right? And so import that data into your newly created Shopify store. You need to go to the dashboard products, and in the top right corner of the section, you will find an import button. Import, very, very important. Okay, so you want to click on it, and you will see a small dialog window. So the thing is that there are not many options here. So you need to upload your CSV file and look at how well it is displaying. You have to take the time to see if it's displaying very well. Okay, so here is how it's going to look like with a simple file provided by Shopify. So once you make sure everything is correct, you need to hit import products and check how it looks in your Shopify store. So here is how the test import looks. So once you have made sure all your orders are exported properly, you can launch the store. Okay, this is finally ready to launch, and you can start selling. But you may want to import a couple of other data sets first. And it's all about doing things gradually and seeing how the end results is really looking like before you actually scale. Let's talk about how to export Etsy customers to Shopify. So this step is more complicated than the others because Etsy does not have a built-in email marketing feature on the platform, and most sellers use third-party email marketing apps to reach out to their customers. Okay, so however, what we have seen in our research is that there is a benefit in exporting that customer data from MailChimp or Sendinblue or another platform you are using to Shopify. And you can run email marketing campaigns directly from the dashboard and save money on subscription fees and integration. Okay, so with MailChimp, for example, you can, but again, this process is available with other players, MailChimp, Sendinblue, Constant Contact, you have a lot of them. But we're just taking the example of MailChimp here that we know a lot more. You can actually, with MailChimp, you can export customer data by going to Audience, All Contacts, Actions, and Export. And if you are using another email marketing platform, there is surely a way to export that data in a CSV as well. Okay, This is important. Now that, and you can actually export MailChimp to Google Sheets, for example, via the MailChimp API without coding. You don't need any coding knowledge, okay? And this is really good. So with a CSV file on your hands, log in into Shopify and go to the admin panel of your store. Go to customers and choose the option to import customer data by CSV. And you want to upload the CSV file and take a look at how the customers are displayed in the dashboard. You constantly need to see that. It's important to make sure all the columns are up to Shopify standards. For example, if the column with notes is not named notes, it may not be imported properly. So you may want to download the sample file provided by Shopify and rename the columns in your CSV accordingly. So this is what it is. So if your first import was unsuccessful, you can always try again while checking off this box. And what will happen here is that by doing that, it will rewrite the data of the customers that are already on the list. So if you want to do the opposite, you can actually do it too. Not a problem. You just need to have a third-party email marketing tool. Now let's talk about how to import your Etsy reviews to Shopify. By the way, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a short convo about how to export Etsy to Shopify. And so we talked about customers. We talked about product listings. Now let's talk about reviews, okay? You can download the reviews your customers have left about your store in the same place where you downloaded the listing data, okay? What you want to do here is that you want to scroll down and choose the download your reviews option to a JSON file, okay? And so this is kind of cool because you can download a JSON file. And then what you want to do is you want to get yourself a Shopify review app like Yotpo, Stamped.io, or Judge Me. So you want to go to settings of the said app and choose to import reviews via CSV. We have actually covered, we have compared and contrasted Yotpo, Judge Me, and now the players on this show. So if you're interested in this topic, let us know. We just send things to you. Okay, it's totally very easy. So you'll have to convert the JSON file to CSV first. You can easily do that via a plethora of free online converters. Okay, and so here is how it looks in Judge Me. And what you want to do is you have to go to the review app help desk and download a simple CSV file before importing to check whether or not all the fields are named the same, right? And if for your app they're not, you want to rename the columns in CSV with your reviews according to the sample file. Otherwise, they may not get imported properly. So once you're done with that phase, just upload the file to the review app. So it's a pretty straightforward process, but it is something you have to do once or twice so that you get you really understand how the whole thing works. But what I want to say here is that it's important to import your Etsy reviews, because if you don't actually try to reinvent the wheel, don't start from scratch. You want your customers to actually see some continuity in your store, whether you are on Etsy or Facebook Marketplace or Shopify or BigCommerce or WooCommerce, because you have probably done a lot of work and you don't want to actually waste or lose all that preliminary work. And if you have been doing this Etsy game for a while, you know the importance of reviews. You know the importance of social proof. Okay, very important. Let's talk about how to link Etsy sales with Shopify. Okay, now importing your past orders may not be a top priority for you, but it is a handy thing for analytics. To do that, you want to go to your store manager in Etsy, then settings, options, download data. You want to select the option to download orders in a CSV file. Okay, this will be really important. So at that point, you want to select the time range. You need to click download and you are almost done. Now, to upload the CSV file with Etsy orders, you'll need to use an app or an importing solution. You can use the Easy Importer app or Transport app that can be found on the Shopify App Store. You need to connect the app to your store, choose the option to import orders, and upload your CSV file. So if you ever need to export Shopify orders to Google Sheets for analytics, that's even easier to do and can be done automatically. Let's talk about how to sync Etsy with Shopify. So if you're not ready to migrate from Etsy to Shopify right away, you have the option to sync these two platforms and sell on both for a short period. This way, you don't need to reject your established revenue stream from Etsy and fulfill orders on Shopify as you are transitioning from one platform to the other, okay? And a handy app for that is Etsy Marketplace Integration, found on Shopify App Store. You want to connect it to your Shopify and Etsy account, and when prompted and you want to start importing products, you will need, don't forget though, you will need to add some attributes as you do that, okay? So after you have successfully uploaded your orders or skipped the step because you already have them imported, configure the dashboard, and the app prompts you to do this in the onboarding dialog windows. So apart from syncing your products, you will want to sync the orders as well. Now, the problem is you can only manage the orders from the two stores from this app's dashboard. So that's why it's not a long-term solution, and you want to choose either Etsy or Shopify eventually. But again, this will depend on your goals, will depend on your target audience, and also depends on your objectives when it comes to scalability. Before we close to this conversation, let's just have a quick talk around dropshipping. So can you really dropship from Etsy to Shopify? You know, this is an important element, especially if you're an e-commerce entrepreneur. You cannot ignore dropshipping. So dropshipping Etsy products from your Shopify store is a great idea. And there's even a market of apps made specifically for Shopify Etsy dropshipping. It is a good business idea for those who don't want to riddle themselves with shipments and order processing and just want to earn a commission. But keep in mind that depending on the niche, it may be really hard to get cheap traffic on your Shopify dropshipping store, and the ROI can become increasingly small. So the thing is, you can switch your store from Etsy to Shopify, not a problem. It can be a tricky process, as I explained to you. It's not tricky in terms of actually importing your Etsy data to Shopify. That's the easy part. What's hard about the transition is doing all the marketing on your own, right? PPC ads, your SEM, content marketing, social media marketing. Those will eat up a lot of your budget, especially if you're just starting out. And so in terms of redirecting traffic from Etsy to Shopify, it is not possible. What you can do is that you can get your clients to migrate to your Shopify store. Keep in mind that Etsy's policy only allows you to contact customers about the order and forbids any kinds of unwarranted promotions. You can only migrate clients that have joined your newsletters list voluntarily. Okay, so this is what it is. So when we talk about transferring Etsy to Shopify at the end, it's all about, it really boils down to three things: your budget, your experience, and your target audience. So when we talk about budget, experience, and target audience, those are the primary elements you have to pay attention to. The secondary elements you have to pay attention to. Think about hefty expenses in terms of domain and hosting. Think about PPC and social media paid ads. Think about SEOs. Okay, those are elements that you need to pay attention to that will actually guide your decision-making process in the long run when we talk about transitioning from Etsy to Shopify. So it's really important to have a clear idea about everything before you make the move. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I just had a quick convo with you about how to export Etsy to Shopify. So we talked about exporting products, customers, reviews, sales, and a lot of other things to your Shopify, and also talk to you about whether it was worth it. I hope this added value to your business, to your e-commerce goals. I will see you next time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.